Welcome back, Truth Seeker. This video is for everyone who's made a bundle of money on the recent Bitcoin surge. I want to show you, again, who controls Bitcoin. It's not you. It's the few people who hold the vast majority of wealth in the world. And the Vatican has a lot to do with it, which has its own central bank. Of course, the Vatican's an independent city-state like Washington, D.C. is, like the banking district of London is. And as we've talked about for years, Bitcoin is controlled by rituals that are in accordance with the church and the Jesuits. And that's undeniable. And if you don't know that, welcome to the channel. If you are a Bitcoin investor, you want to know this information. And my advice is that if you've made a big profit in recent times off the surge, it might be wise to take out some of your investment in the days ahead and to record yourself a nice little profit. Of course, keep some of your investment in there because even if it tanks, again, Bitcoin's like the market. It goes up and down. It'll eventually come back around, but you might need to be patient. The risk of not taking out in the days ahead is what I'm about to get to. So, Bitcoin, currently close to 70,000 on the 70th day of the year. It's at 69,000 and some, and its surge began last year on October 23rd, the day leaving 69 days left in the year, which is a special number that has a lot to do with the church, as we'll get to. And notice, again, it was October 23rd that Bitcoin really surged up. It was on a recovery, it was building up, but October 23rd, it really shot up. And from that point on, it climbed even more rapidly. And pretty much since that point, it's been up, up, up. Of course, it's up even more now. You can see there were some dips along the way, but it's been an upwards trajectory. And notice what's significant about October 23rd. From Satoshi Nakamoto's April 5th birthday, again, a person who's a lot like Pythagoras. People don't even know if he really exists, but the name exists. But from his supposed April 5th birthday to October 23rd was 201 days later. And if you don't know what 201 means, I know you're brand new here because we've been educating about this number for a very long time, especially with regards to why Event 201 was the name of the pandemic simulation put on by the Jesuit Klaus Schwab right before the world got locked down from the old cooties. Again, 201 is the number of the Jesuit order. It's why the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, is the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican. And it's why the Jesuit order was supposedly saved in history by Catherine the Great, who preserved the order with 201 Jesuit priests. Again, 201 is just so special to the Jesuits. It has to do with why Joe Biden's wife and daughter died way back in 1972 in a 201 ritual right after he became senator-elect. Also has to do with why when he was 72 years old, his son died 201 days before the Pope's birthday at age 46, only for Biden to eventually become number 46 in an election exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. And that thing about 72 is important. We're about to get to the 72nd day of the year upcoming, why it matters, and why the more recent super surge came 72 days after the Pope's birthday. Again, he became the first Jesuit Pope back in 2013 on the 72nd day of the year. And on the dollar bill, that little pyramid, again, there's 72 stones there. If you're new here, I want you to see this about Gematria. Again, it's based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards with numerology. I want you to see how the Jesuit order equates to 69 as well as 201. All these numbers up here matter, but for this ritual that's going on right now, 69 and 201. Again, the surge began 201 days after Nakamoto's birthday on the day leaving 69 days left in the year. And again, the price has been fluctuating for days now around the 69K range. Notice also Nakamoto's birthday, April 5th, 4-5. Notice how Bitcoin's 45. Notice how Nakamoto is 45. The word ritual is 45. The Jesuit acronym in their logo, IHS, for Jesus Hominum Salvator, is 45. Years ago, for people who don't know, I showed why Bitcoin was going to be worth 45,000 in the year that Nakamoto was 45 years old. by Valentine's Day, the 45th day of the year. And it exceeded that. It went above 45,000, but Bitcoin had never been that high before. If you remember the year that it broke 33,000 on New Year's Day, essentially, we put out the video that day and we said this thing's going up to at least 45,000 by the 45th day of the year, Valentine's Day, perfectly synced with Nakamoto's birthday. And it got above 50K by Valentine's Day. These things are not an accident. If you guys are familiar with the channel Waters Above Crypto, he saw my video on that and instantly launched his own brand of Gematria decoding with Bitcoin. He saw the business opportunity. And he has made a bundle from it without ever giving credit to yours truly who he learned it from. But that's what biters do. Anyhow, with regards to digital currency in 201, it's no accident that last year FedNow went live on the 201st day of the year. And don't forget that in April of last year, Bob Lee was stabbed to death on 4/4. Bob Lee, who created CashApp and Square, he's kind of like the godfather of digital currency, was stabbed to death on 4/4. And the Federal Reserve on the Ides of March last year put out the memo that the first week of April they were going to begin certifying the FedNow system. The Ides of March, to remember the stabbing of Caesar in 44 BC. Then that first week of April, like they put out the memo for the certification, Bob Lee gets stabbed to death. Remember that because the Ides of March is just days away. The Ides of March is March 15th every year, and we're going to touch on that in a second. But Bitcoin, it surged. It had its biggest surge in this entire period of upward movement on February 27th. It skyrocketed on February 27th, which is the 58th day of the year. Keep in mind, Pope Francis equals 58. But that was also 72 days after Pope Francis's birthday. And again, he became the first Jesuit Pope once upon a time on the 72nd day of the year. What came out in entertainment that day was Shogun, the new show centered in Japan in the 1600s that's very much focused on the rivalry between the Catholic Church and the Protestants, where in the first episode you meet a Jesuit priest. So on the same day that show came out, Bitcoin skyrocketed. And again, Satoshi Nakamoto, a Japanese name. The recent leader of the Jesuits, Adolfo Nicholas, whose name equals 72 like Jesuit order, he died by the numbers in Japan. So 72 days after the Pope's birthday was the biggest surge, right? 72 days. And now we're just days away from the 72nd day of the year. This year is a leap year, so it's March 12th. March 12th, 2024 will be the 72nd day of the year. And again, there's 4 base ciphers. The most simple cipher is oftentimes the most useful cipher. Bitcoin equates to 72 in the most simple cipher, as does money. And it's possible that Bitcoin surges more on the 72nd day of the year. It's very possible it's up to 72,000 valuation by the 72nd day of the year. Again, it's hovering right around 69,000, just like how the surge began on the day leaving 69 days left in the year. That's possible. Of course, that's what you'd like to see happen if you're a Bitcoin owner. But we've also seen where surges can happen on the number. It's this way in the market too. Sometimes it's also the beginning of the downfall. So beware of that. If it does surge on March 12th, that might be one of the last days of the upward trend for the time being before the next inevitable fall comes. And as for the next inevitable fall, this year the Ides of March is the 75th day of the year. Notice how cryptocurrency has that 75 in it. So does Catholic Church, so does Roman Catholic, so does Order, so does New World Order, so does Ignatius of Loyola, that's the founder of the Jesuits, so does Adam Weishaupt, that's the Jesuit who founded the Illuminati. By the way, Order of Illuminati is 201, just like the Jesuit order is. And in history, Adam Weishaupt died 201 days after the anniversary of the Illuminati's establishment. And of course, Illuminati symbolism's all over the dollar. And the Federal Reserve was once upon a time established in a huge Jesuit Catholic ritual. When you hear people say that Zionist Jews run the banking world, those people don't know what they're talking about. The world's first bankers were the Templars of the Catholic Church, and that's why the Jesuits have the Templar cross in their logo, and that's why the Jesuits are also so connected to this modern day currency, cryptocurrency. But the 75th day of the year, the Ides of March, that could be the day where the rug gets pulled out, if it's not sooner. And, could there be a little bounce back after the fall? Oftentimes markets will wobble up and down, and then they'll take a deeper fall or a steeper climb. So I'd watch all these days. The 75th day of the year is March 15th, the Ides. 3 days later is the 78th day of the year. Cryptocurrency's got that 78 like Jesuit. All of these numbers get used routinely in Jesuit rituals, but 72 is a real big one. And again, that's why the biggest climb of all, no doubt, came the day that Shogun came out, 72 days after the Pope's birthday, again on the 58th day of the year. And it did climb into the 59th day of the year as well. And notice how Pope Francis is 58 and 59. Again, he's the first Jesuit Pope, at least publicly, in the history of the Catholic Church. And for the record, he's the 266th. Isus Hominum Salvator equals 266. Again, that's abbreviated IHS, which is 45, like Bitcoin and Nakamoto. And ritual and Berlin Wall, and that's why the Jesuit Donald Trump was called the 45th president-elect, and the rigged selection on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall when he ran on building a wall. I have some other notes here if you want to read the post at GematriaEffectNews, including the period that the dip occurred. That little dip in the climb, it hit a peak on January 11th, and then it fell down big time on January 12th, and then it recovered 26 days later. It fell steeply 26 days after the Pope's birthday, and then was, down for 26 days before it had an even bigger return. So again, there's meaning to all these numbers. In my first book, Letters and Numbers, I write about money in 26 and why there's 26 letters in the English alphabet. But yeah, again, learn Gematria. You can apply this to the stock market, crypto. You can see through the news every day, the rigged elections, the rigged sports games. I mean, this knowledge is so universal. And again, the patterns that we teach about. You learn the key numbers to the cabal. You see through the key rituals. Till next time, Truth Seeker.